This story isn't about a ghost. It's about a visitor. The kind of visitor that doesn't wait for an invitation. My name is Dan Harrison. I've lived in this house for 19 years. Tonight, it doesn't feel like my home anymore. It started with a doorbell ring, soft at first. I figured it was just trick-or-treaters, normal Halloween stuff. Then it rang again, louder, more urgent. And then again, and again, 4 times in a row. So I checked the Ring camera. But the porch was completely empty. Not a shadow, not a shape, just stillness. The timestamp was wrong too, like the alert came before the sound. The video glitched, flickered, and froze. When the image came back, something was different. A small figure stood on the edge of the frame. It didn't walk in, it appeared, like it faded into reality. It just stood there, motionless. I tried to zoom in on the face, but there was no face, no eyes, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin. I felt a cold rush down my back. It wasn't fear from outside, it was inside. The figure turned its head slowly, but not toward the camera, like it knew where I was watching from. I closed the app for a second. I thought maybe the camera was lagging or glitching, but then the doorbell rang again. This time, it sounded deeper, like someone hit it with their whole hand. I checked the screen again. The figure was gone, but something felt off. The air in the room got colder, like the temperature just dropped 10 degrees. I tried to breathe normally, but my chest was tight. I walked slowly toward the front door. Every step sounded louder than it should have. My own heartbeat felt like it echoed in my ears. I reached the door but didn't touch the lock. I listened. Total silence. No footsteps, no wind, no voices. Then I heard it. A faint tapping on the window beside the door. It wasn't a knock, it was finger drumming. Soft, rhythmic, like a kid trying to get your attention without getting caught. I slowly turned to the window. There was no one there, but the tapping stopped the second I looked. I backed away, step by step. I still hadn't said a word, didn't want whoever, or whatever, it was to know I was there. My phone buzzed again. Another motion alert from the Ring camera. I hesitated, then opened the app. The figure was back, standing even closer now, right in front of the door, but still, no face. Just that blank shape where a face should be. The timestamp was wrong again. It said the motion was detected 3 minutes in the future. I blinked hard, checked again. Same thing. The kid, if it was a kid, tilted its head slowly, like it was listening to something I couldn't hear. Then, without moving its body, it lifted one arm. Its hand came up, out of frame, and the doorbell rang one more time. But this time I heard it ring, inside the house. Like the sound didn't come from the porch, but from the hallway. My phone was still showing the figure outside. So what rang the bell inside? I turned around and stared down the hall. No one was there. Just shadows and silence. I felt my throat go dry. This wasn't a prank. Something was trying to get in. Or worse, it was already in. The phone buzzed one more time. A new alert. Motion detected, inside. My hands were shaking now. I checked the feed, expecting the living room camera. But it wasn't the living room. It was a camera view I had never installed. A camera pointing directly at me. I froze. The screen showed me standing in the hallway. Behind me, something moved. I didn't want to turn around. I already knew I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't turn around right away because my body already knew the truth my mind refused to accept. Something had crossed the threshold between outside, and it didn't need my permission to do it. The phone still showed a live view of me in the hallway, as if a camera had sprouted from the ceiling just to witness this. Behind my shoulders, a blur rippled across the darkness like heat over asphalt. I swallowed hard and finally pivoted, inch by inch, like my bones had rusted overnight. The hallway stretched longer than it ever had, an elastic corridor where shadows pooled like water. Nothing obvious stood there, no form, no figure, but the air had weight, the way air feels right before a thunderclap. "Who's there?" I asked, and the word "who" came out thinner than I meant it to. The house responded like a throat clearing, wood settling, ducts humming, the refrigerator's moan pretending to be casual. From the living room, the TV screen flashed without turning on, a cold rectangle of reflected streetlight. I stepped forward, and every footfall made the floorboard confess a different, secret memory. As I passed the family photos, the glass caught my face and smeared it, as if the house was already erasing me. The Ring app chimed again. Motion detected. Front door. I glanced down and saw me again, only this time from slightly above, like an angle a person couldn't reach without a ladder. "I never installed that," I whispered, and the phone answered with a brief hiss of speaker static. A childish rhythm tapped along the crown molding, an innocent pattern that made my skin crawl. Tap, 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 tap. Like fingers playing a lullaby they didn't remember the words to. I lifted my old service flashlight and painted the walls with a shaky beam. The light caught a smear near the doorframe, like a greasy handprint just above where a small head might brush. I worked crime scenes for years. I knew a transfer stain when I saw one. But the stain wasn't brown or red. It was the color of missing light, a smudge of absence. "Travis?" I said the name before I remembered deciding to. The name had lived in Cedar Lane longer than I had. That missing boy, that Halloween night, that door no one should have opened. Silence answered me, but not the kind that means nothing is there, the kind that means everything is listening. The doorbell rang again, muffled, like it was pressed under a pillow. And then it rang a second time from the kitchen, which made no sense because the chime had never been wired there. I walked toward the kitchen, keeping the wall to my left, the way you do in unfamiliar halls so you don't get lost. The floor felt soft under my socks, like there was carpet, but I didn't own any carpet. When the flashlight touched the fridge, magnets quivered as if a train was passing a block away. A grocery list trembled and curled at the edges, and my wife's handwriting, the last list she wrote, seemed to shift a letter out of place. The app pinged again. Motion detected. Back door. I don't have a back door camera, I thought, and still my thumb pulled the feed open. The screen showed my back door from outside, rain carving silver lines down the glass. A small silhouette stood behind the pane inside my kitchen in the spot where my flashlight beam now rested. I swung the light left and right. Empty tile, empty chairs, empty air. On the phone, the silhouette didn't move. In the room, there was nothing to aim at. My breath fogged in the beam like December, though the thermostat said 71. "If you need help," I tried, "tell me your name." A whisper arrived, low and watery, as if spoken underwater in a nearby sink. "You already said it," the voice replied, and the faucet gave a tiny cough of metal. Travis. The name was a key I hadn't meant to turn. The ring feed glitched. For a heartbeat, the silhouette's face filled the frame. Blank skin, featureless, like clay before a sculptor gives it a life. Then a mouth dented itself into that smoothness, as if forced from the inside by two small fingers. "Let me in," it mouthed, though I heard no sound. "You're already in," I said, and hated how true it felt. Somewhere down the hall, my bedroom door clicked softly, the way a tongue clicks on the roof of a mouth. I turned away from the kitchen, and the phone S-Glow drew a crude halo around my fingers. On the hallway feed, the camera that shouldn't exist watched me move like prey. Behind me, just at the edge of the frame, a second shadow bled out of the first. My wife always said the house held onto the seasons like perfume. Right then it smelled like damp wool and old leaves, like Halloween coats hung too long on a rack. Why me? I asked, and wished I'd saved the question for a priest. The answer didn't come from the house. It came from the phone, a system voice I'd never heard. New device connected. Cedar Lane guest. Guest, I thought, like an account, like a profile, like a user with permissions. You're not a guest, I said. You were never invited. The hallway camera zoomed on its own. My shoulders filled the screen, then my ear, then the white seam of a scar I'd carried since the academy. The voice returned, barely sound at all. You invited us when you said our names. Us, plural, a crowd hiding under a singular coat. I said one name, I argued, and the house gave a tiny laugh, nails flexing in studs, tape peeling from paint. I raised the flashlight and the beam trembled like a nervous witness. The doorbell rang again, distant, as if it now belonged to a neighbor's stomach rumble. The app chimed in perfect counterpoint. Motion detected. Inside. The feed shifted to the living room, where the blank TV had become a mirror for the window. Outside the window, rain jittered and streetlights bled, and in that war of reflections, a figure stood in the yard. Not small this time. Tall, thin, a parenthesis for the night. Travis? I asked again, hating how my mouth insisted on the word. The tall thing angled its head the way he had, as if learning posture from a broken marionette. He can't come to the door, the watery voice said. So we came to you. We? I repeated, and the living room lamp popped like a seed in hot oil. A moment of dark grew thick enough to touch, and I pressed forward through it, palms open. When the light returned, the photos on the mantel had changed places without moving. My wedding picture now faced the window, as if my past needed to look out. The ring feed stuttered, and then overlaid itself with text I'd never configured. History replay, Halloween. The screen rewound a minute, then 5, then 1 year, then 10. The porch cycling through costumes and decades like a flipbook. Children rose and fell from the bottom of the frame. Candy bags fattened and emptied. Families grew, shrank, moved away. And in every 10th frame, where the light stuttered, a small, faceless boy stood still as a nail in wood. He didn't beg, he didn't wave, he waited. What do you want? I asked, the way you would ask the ocean to stop being wide. The reply came not as sound, but as an edit. The feed cut to the inside of my front door, handle level with a 7-year-old's reach. A smear of absence darkened there, the same missing color from the kitchen frame. The smear lengthened, stretched, and shaped itself into finger marks pressed from the other side. Open, the house whispered through 100 miles of drywall. I stepped back, knuckles tight around the flashlight, pulse stumbling in an old man's sprint. And the lock turned with a soft, satisfied click, like a tongue finding a familiar tooth in the dark. I didn't touch the door, but it opened anyway. Cold air rushed in, like something exhaled from the dark. The porch was empty. The street was empty. But the air felt crowded. My phone vibrated again. Playback mode activated. I didn't press anything. The ring feed was replaying old footage. Footage from years I didn't live here yet. Trick-or-treaters I never met. Families I never knew. Kids laughing, moving houses, growing up. Except one. One kid never changed. Same height, same movement, same blank face. Travis, I whispered. The feed suddenly froze. The image zoomed into his face. A smooth oval, no eyes, no mouth. Then a crack, like skin breaking. A tiny smile formed, slow, unnatural. My phone dimmed, then brightened again. A new file appeared. Travis Home, MP4. I didn't have that file. I didn't download it. But it played anyway. The footage was inside my house. My kitchen. My hallway. Except everything was older. Like it was filmed 15 years ago. A woman walked through the frame. I didn't know her. She stopped, looked over her shoulder, toward the door. She froze. Something was coming in. I heard a child's voice through the speaker. Trick or treat. She opened the door. A shape entered, low to the ground. Not walking, sliding. Then the woman disappeared. Gone, like the tape cut her out of existence. I shut off the phone. The sound kept playing. The voice got louder. I left the door open. The words echoed. Not from the phone, from the room. I turned. The front door was wide. The hallway was black. Something small stood in the dark, its head tilted, its body still. I stepped back. The floor creaked under something behind me. I spun. Nothing there. I spun again. The small shape was closer, not walking, just appearing, like cutting through frames of reality. My ears rang with static. My heart felt too loud. The boy, if it was a boy, raised his hand. Fingers curled into a fist, then opened it. A piece of paper fell out. It drifted down like ash, landed at my feet. A note, written in childish letters. Let me live here now. The words repeated on every line, again and again. My legs wouldn't move. The hallway dark shifted. Another shape stood there now, taller. A second visitor. He was never alone, the house whispered. The phone lit up one more time. Final replay loaded. Keep watching, the child's voice said. We're not done coming in. And the screen showed the door, closing behind me. The house was silent, but not calm. Silence isn't safety. It's suspense waiting to break. The door was open behind me, but something else had already walked past it. I turned my head slowly. The living room window showed only my reflection. But behind my reflection, a second shadow lingered. Taller than the child. Thinner than a man. It watched me, not with eyes, but with presence. A presence that made the air feel heavy in my lungs. My phone lit up, screen flickering in my palm. No app now, just static and the words, "Now we live here." The words blurred, reshaped themselves. You let us in. I didn't respond. Who do you argue with when the house itself listens? The flashlight flickered. The bulb buzzed like it was full of flies. Upstairs, footsteps ran across the floorboards, fast, lighter than an adult. Then a second set, heavier, dragging. Something was following it. Leave, I whispered. Go back outside. The house groaned, like it was laughing. A new alert appeared on the phone. Location compromised. The hallway camera. Yes, the one I never installed. Activated again. It showed me from above. Still in the kitchen. Still holding the flashlight. But behind me, something else was standing. Its fingers were long, wrong, like tree branches that had forgotten how to be alive. It raised its hand, reached toward the back of my head. I didn't feel it touch me, but the air moved, like gravity shifted, like the house was breathing in. I spun around. Nothing there. But when I looked at the phone, the figure behind me was still on the screen, unmoving, watching. Why us? I asked, but the words were small in the room. I wasn't asking for a reason. I was asking for mercy. The front door slammed shut. The lock slid into place with a metal tongue. Not my doing. Not human doing. I walked to the door anyway. Tried the handle. It was ice cold, like a hand had frozen it from the inside. A new sound filled the air, ticking, like a clock. But I didn't own a clock. The ticking echoed up the stairs, and down again, like the house was full of them, like time itself was walking in circles. On the phone, the feed rewound one more time. Kids laughing, leaves blowing, my door closing, my lights turning off, ending in one final frame. A complete black screen, and then a knock. 3 times, not on the door, but on the wall inside, behind me, close enough to feel the vibration. Don't answer, I whispered to myself, but the wall knocked again. A child's whisper slid into the air. You already did. I dropped the phone. The floor swallowed the screen in a burst of static. The lights went out. Total dark. I didn't scream. I didn't move. You don't move when the thing in your house wants to see what you'll do next. A voice spoke behind me, closer than breath. Now it's your turn at the door. And I finally understood. I wasn't alone. I was the new visitor.